This is the Old Musician's Blog number 33. It's a Tuesday. Did I already say that a Tuesday tends to be a recovery day? What does that mean? Well, it means getting up a little later, perhaps feeling a little groggy because we went to bed a little bit later, took a little bit of extra cookie just to go through the night, which went easy. And, kind of moved slow for the first part of the day so that the things that I watched on YouTube catch up on a little bit of tech news, see if there was anything interesting in new materials or space travel or some other form of tech interest, like the blockchain and the distributed ledgers. What's the news going on in those areas? A friend of mine has been watching the gold-silver ratio, and right now gold is expensive and silver is cheap, and comparatively. And he says that that's a good indicator for an investment in silver at this time, and that there are people who just spend their time going from one metal to the other as the ratio changes, and that they're able to make a living doing that. And not the idea of doing that as a livelihood, but the idea of that paper money, especially in the form of large bills, seems to be looking more and more like paper as time goes on, and that it might be prudent to have some other form of cash, so to speak, that was barterable and that could be exchanged in communities that are not first and foremost those with accepted uses. And, so that interests me. So in looking into, the price of silver and, the way one can buy these things, because you can take the physical delivery of silver and you actually have it. It's not like you have a piece of paper that you have to, trust your access to, and it turns out that there's some transaction fees involved, and they amount to about a 4%, hit on the way in and on the way out. And, if you're considering this as a long-term hold for a barterable situation, it's still not too bad to have some access to that kind of a situation. And by the same token, if you look at the charts of the market at the moment, of course we've all, well, I don't know about we've all, but many of us watched the rise and the fall of Bitcoin, and are still considering where that might level itself out for the future, because after the shakeout, there'll certainly be distributed ledger technologies that will be meaningful for the future. And having a certain amount of exposure to some of those is probably a good idea too, just as a kind of a diversification, I think they call it. But anyway, there's this other thing, which is that the markets themselves, have been, on a tear for a very long time, and now they're starting to look a little bit toppy, and sooner or later they'll have a correction, so to speak, which is a nice way of putting it. And when they do, it might be prudent to be in a position to take some shares in companies that perhaps would produce a dividend and a bit of income, and would survive the coming apocalyptic stock plop that could happen, and if that is the case, then one needs to be prepared. And I've often been a little bit dyslexic in my own understanding of these things, and in the 2008, had went in the wrong direction at the wrong time. But now I can see, yes, there's an opportunity, and especially since I'm much less involved in following these things and just looking at them more from a macro meta perspective, and that this is an opportunity that is worth keeping an eye out for when these things happen, that would give one more possibility of survival into the future. And I don't know, as an older person, how much time there is. I don't like to have the feeling of being overly confident of the idea, that anything lasts forever, least of all myself. And so there's a certain amount of preparation, but there's also a feeling of wanting to leave behind things of value and wanting to value the things of value that have come into my life through karma, luck, circumstance, and good fortune.